talking therapy for me is really important because, talking therapy is almost about you coming up with the answers, because you say things out loud, you start to dissect them, accept them also, and come to that realization. Personal journey of therapy started with CBT therapy, and that was a psychologist who was within the burns unit where I was being treated. So from the moment of coming out of a coma, the psychologist was there. It was an NHS psychologist in the NHS treatment, and I saw her every single day. So that I was an inpatient in the hospital, so it was very intensive therapy. And when I was discharged and became an outpatient, I went back to the hospital to see her twice a week. And then after that, I had tried a few other things that did work for me. I tried EDMR therapy.
Is that
with the light for the
yeah.
eye?
Yeah.
Also, I tried tapping, which is something I use in my everyday life now.
Is that the EFT? Yeah,
EFT. So if I'm about to do a speech and I feel slightly on edge or nervous, just simple tapping can really help me. And similar with the 2-to-1 breathing. So kind of breathing in for 2, out for 4. That really helps me sort of regulate the nervous system, and any kind of symptoms you might get from stress or anxiety, it really helps diminish those. I think my biggest message about therapy is think of it like exercise. There's so many different ways to exercise. You go online and you see HIIT training, you see weightlifting, whatever it is. If you try one style of exercise and you don't like it, you don't just pack in exercising together. You try different trainers, different clubs, different YouTube videos. So if you go for therapy and it doesn't work for you, don't just stop there. There's so many different practitioners and there's so many different services available now. It's not just talking therapy now. There's all different things. So keep trying different practitioners and different methods, and eventually someone will unlock your pain, your trauma, your past, and they will help you move forward. Bottling something up is unhealthy, and I think what you have the potential to then do is have unmeasured outbursts, and they might be when you're using alcohol or if you're using drugs, and things start to unravel. So certainly talking therapy for me is really important because, talking therapy is almost about you coming up with the answers, because you say things out loud, you start to dissect them, accept them also, and come to that realization. But also I do agree, for some people, if the trauma is, something like a rape or some kind of accident, there comes a time when you don't want to carry on talking about it, and maybe EDMR, hypnotherapy, tapping might actually be better for you, or life coaching, because it might be about the present tense, it might not be about the past for you anymore. So that's why I think you have to think of therapy as something that evolves. For me, my trauma happened 12 years ago. I've got an appointment with my therapist tomorrow on the phone, but we don't talk about rape and acid attacks and being burnt. I'll talk about me and my husband and my kids, So therapy evolves with you, and the subjects change. And I really like the American style of psychology, where everyone has a dentist, everyone has a therapist, and I don't think I'll ever stop therapy personally. I also think it's considerate to the people you have relationships with, because if you don't have a therapist, you offload to the wrong people and you burden them. And I think if you have a therapist, you can take it to a professional space that's confidential, and then you treat the other people around you like a friend or like a partner rather than like a therapist. I think it's a good point, because actually not everyone can afford a therapist, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable accessing. You touched on the journaling. Writing has always been something that's cathartic for me. Before it was a career of writing books, it was something my psychologist told me to do because I had a lot of anger. So as well as writing diaries and journals, I would write letters to people that maybe I felt had hurt me or wronged me, and completely seal them in an envelope and then tear up the whole thing and throw it away. And it just felt like I was screaming. It was like a release, and it was a really healthy release. But I mean, exercise is a big part of my life, because I like to really push myself to the limit, and I like to feel those endorphins and like to get that release and that sense of satisfaction. I also really connect feeling physically strong with mental strength. So the kind of training I'll do is sort of weightlifting, really heavy weights, which, you know, I'm 5'3" and about 8 stone. But yeah, there's something about that if I go to the gym before work and lift heavy weights, even though I'm probably not stronger than most men, I feel empowered and in control. And then if I go to a work meeting with quite an alpha male or a really dominant person, I just feel more assertive. And that is all psychology, because of course I'm not stronger than that person, but it gives me the confidence to feel like I can hold my own. So I do think that's really powerful. But I think, you know, really it's about being mindful across your whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we must be mindful of our choices. You know, if I drink every single night, no doubt I'll wake up with depression because it's a proven depressant.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying you can't have a beer in the garden in this glorious weather, but you know, I just try and treat my body like a business, and you know, I want maximum return. So I've got to be really mindful of my investments and my input. Otherwise, my business is going to fail. I think that was my major life lesson from my acid attack. You know, to come out of something where people thought you might die, to come out of a coma. I remember on a day of reflection, I thought, this body has got me through the unthinkable. How will I ever repay it? And, you know, really understanding how resilient or strong we are. And we're all frightened at the moment with the virus. The human body can be beaten, battered and traumatized, and it can come back just as strong. So, you know, don't doubt yourself, but do repay it the favor. You know, knowing how the medical things I've been through, I tried to be kind to my body. I tried to be good. Of course, I tried to enjoy it as well at the same time, but try to remember what it does for you on a daily basis and sometimes assist it.